Today I'm going to reveal the secret control that's in every single vintage EQ inside of Logic Pro. Hi, my name's Tyson. I'm a mastering engineer here at Dinosaur Dog Mastering, and today I want to show you the secret behind all of the amazing vintage EQs inside of the Logic Pro X stock plugin suite. These are the most underutilized EQs, also best EQs that I can find for certain applications inside of my mixing process. And speaking of my mixing process, I do want to give to you a free course that's associated with this video. It is called the Pro Mix Formula, and you can get that in the description below or in the first link on the first comment below this video. So make sure you're picking that up, and without any further ado, the first EQ that you'll find is the console EQ. This is based off of a Neve 1073 EQ inside of the Neve console. It's supposed to be a relatively transparent console EQ, but the Logic Pro version actually has a lot of grit to it and a lot of saturation, so you can use it to add a lot of saturation to your mixes if you want, either on the mix bus or on individual track or on buses like your drum bus. The second EQ that you'll run into is the graphic EQ. This is based off of an API 560. So again, this is a very vintage style EQ. You can add a lot of color using this. And it is very different than the Neve EQ in my opinion, but again, you can use it for a very similar effect of adding some nice saturation. It also has a graphical interface, which might be easier for you to use, especially if you're just starting out mixing. It's easier to use than the console EQ. Third type of vintage EQ that Logic Pro has by default is the Pultec style EQ. This is a tube style EQ and adds the most coloration and the most saturation out of any of these EQs. That is my personal favorite, but the other two are also very quality, very good EQs. So let's dive into the DAW, and I'll actually show you how to use these EQs inside of your mix, and also the secret that it's inside of every single one of them and how you can use it to your advantage. Here I have pulled up one of them. If you're not aware of where they're at, here they are. These are all the vintage style EQs, and you can find those under the EQ section and then vintage EQ collection, and it should have all three of them there. I moved one out of there, so don't worry about that. You will find all three of these EQs there. I'm going to use this graphic style EQ. The ultimate secret behind this is it doesn't matter which one you use because they are all combined into a single plugin. It just is based on whichever interface you like best, and usually the graphic style EQ is one of the easiest ones to use and also one of the most flexible because you can adjust every single EQ band that you can see here, as well as tune it up and down. So I can tune it all the way down to the lowest band is 16 hertz and then the highest band is only 8 kilohertz. And if I tune it all the way up, I can get all the way up to 32 kilohertz, which is unheard of for most stock EQs. Most of them max out at 20 kilohertz, which it's actually very significant having this additional band with mastering because we want to be able to have a nice curve using this highest band. So that is very, very helpful in mastering scenarios. We can get any vibe from any of these three EQs with just a single EQ because we can change this output model. This actually changes the saturation that these EQs add to your track, and you can actually even turn it off. So if it's turned off, it's just like a digital parametric EQ, just like your channel EQ. But we can also change it to be the smooth, which is the console EQ, which is normally looks like this, right, with only a couple bands, and it's much harder to use in a lot of scenarios unless you're only going to make one move. Or you could make it the punchy EQ, which is the default one that this is, the API style EQ, or you can make it the silky, the tube EQ, the Pultec style EQ, and EQ accordingly. The last secret that is amazing with these EQs is that you can actually change the drive here. This drive makes you able to actually add more or less saturation, which I have not found any premium EQ that you can do that with, at least that I own. I can't change the intensity of any of these EQs in terms of the saturation that they give. So that is actually a really, really handy feature that comes in with the Logic Pro X vintage style EQs. I'm going to turn the drive all the way up so we can more obviously hear what's happening, and then I'm going to switch through all of these different styles of model outputs so you can actually hear the difference. Some of them are relatively subtle, so you do have to listen very closely, not making any adjustments at all, but I'm going to make a couple adjustments in a minute so you can listen to the actual EQ working as well. But this is just running through the EQ, no adjustments being made. So we're going to start with the tube EQ, and then we're just going to walk down through them. So here is the tube EQ.
Vampires Walking through the valley, they move west down Ventura Boulevard, and all the bad boys are standing in the shadows, and all the good girls are home with broken hearts, and I'm vampires. Walking through the valley, they move west down Ventura Boulevard, and all the bad boys.
So that's all three of them. You may or may not be able to really tell the difference between them, even with the drive all the way up, because they're all adding some saturation to it. And so they're all adding their own little, very slight character changes to the vocal itself. But let's actually EQ a little bit. I'm just gonna add some top end to this vocal. We'll be able to tell a little bit more of the differences in character of each of these different styles of EQ. So we're gonna start again with the tube EQ with the actual EQ change here.
Vampires walking through the valley, they move west down Ventura Boulevard, and all the bad boys are standing in the shadows, and all the good girls are home with broken hearts, and I'm vampires.
So again, this EQ is incredibly flexible, and you can use it in almost any scenario inside of your mix. This drive is all the way up. I can just kind of turn that down if I want to. This is also a great way to just add some slight saturation to your entire mix. If you don't have very many options for adding saturation to your mix, this is a great way to do it. So I can just add this graphic EQ, not even make any changes to the mix bus, and add some nice saturation to it. So let's just go ahead and add some console saturation to the mix bus, and I'm gonna enable and disable this so you can tell the difference on the entire mix itself. So let's start with it off. So you can tell how much that just kind of brings those, especially those electric guitars, forward by adding all of that saturation. This might be a little extreme because I have the drive cranked all the way up to 11. Add a lot of saturation, and we can just dial that in exactly where we want to and add some nice console style saturation to our mix bus. So utilize these EQs because they are fantastic EQs, and they come in the stock plug-in package with Logic Pro X. So make sure that you're utilizing these, especially before you start investing in premium gear. Really learn these EQs because they are way more powerful than most people realize, and way more versatile than most people realize as well. So go ahead and dig into these and have fun. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below. And also, if you want to watch me mix this song from start to finish inside of Logic Pro X, I'm giving you a free course. So make sure you get access to that and actually take the course and implement it. You can mix this entire song along with me. I give you the multi-tracks, and you can just watch me mix this entire song step by step, from just putting the tracks into the session to finalizing the actual master ready for release. So make sure you're watching that training. It is down below. Can't wait to see you on the inside, and I'll see you there.